10 of the fantasy basketball season, and he has a few centers I would look to sell high or just trade away this week. The first guy is Wendell Jr. of the Chicago Bulls. So Wendell Carter, we saw him come off that bad injury a few weeks ago, and he's definitely producing for the Chicago Bulls and fantasy owners. On the season, he's ranked 131 with 13.1 points a game, 7.7 rebounds, 2.2 assists, 72% from the foul line, and 54% from the field. To Carter Jr., he's more of a double-double type of player, but he's not going to give you any other categories. He don't hit threes. He don't really block shots much. He's only averaging .8 on the season, and the last couple weeks his ranking's 103 since he came back. Is Wendell Carter Jr. 13.8 points a game, 6.8 rebounds, 1.6 assists, 1.4 blocks a game. So those blocks have bumped up a little for him over this time. So Carter, he's going to get a lot of opportunities. Laurie marketing once again this season. He's hurt here for the Chicago Bull team, and hopefully he comes back. But right now it's helping Wendell Carter, and since he's returned, he's playing anywhere from 25 to 30 minutes a game on average. And this Bull team, they've won 3 out of 4 now, and I think it's a large part of Wendell Carter playing well and helping this ball club win games. The last 3 games for him have been pretty solid. February 19th at Philly, 15 points, 4 rebounds, 1 assist and a 3. February 20th versus Sacramento, 7 points, 5 boards, 5 assists and 2 blocks. And then February 22nd in Houston, he had a huge ball game, probably his best of the season. 18 points, 13 rebounds, an assist, 2 steals, and 3 blocks. So Wendell Carter, he's starting to have a knack for the boards. He's scoring the basketball at a better pace, but I don't know if he's going to sustain this high scoring and high rebounding type of game. So right now, if you could sell him off after the last big game he had a couple nights ago, this is the time to do it, because I don't think we're going to see many huge games out of Wendell Carter this season. I think he's going to be more of a 12-7 guy the rest of the way, which isn't crazy or bad, but I just don't think it's that huge for fantasy owners. The next center I would look to sell off or trade away is Mason Plumlee of the Detroit Pistons. So Plumlee, he's been pretty good in his first season here with Detroit, but his stats, I just don't think he's going to sustain them either. And we've seen emergence of some young guys scoring the basketball and playing well for this Detroit Piston team. We've seen it with Sadiq Bey and Ian Lee here for this Piston team. He's been playing well in the last 2 games, but on the season, he's ranked 87th as Plumlee, 10.1 points a game, 9.1 rebounds, 3.5 assists, 71% from the foul line, 60% from the field. The last few weeks, though, he's bumped the numbers up a bit. 11 points a game, 10.4 rebounds, 5.2 assists, and 64% from the field. So Plumlee, he's had some big games, like I said, but I don't think it's sustainable for him. I just don't think he's going to be productive the whole season for this Piston team. And we'll see if he hits the wall here with more minutes, because the last few seasons he was a backup in Denver, and he didn't put up huge numbers, but we've seen huge games out of him and some big numbers and stat lines that I just don't think he's going to sustain. So he's a perfect sell-high candidate where you could package him and someone else and definitely get a good player. The last 3 games for Plumlee: February 19th, 10 points, 15 rebounds, 6 assists, 2 blocks. February 21st at Orlando, 10 points, 7 rebounds, 3 assists, 2 steals. And then February 23rd, last night at Orlando, 7 points, 12 rebounds, 4 assists, and 3 blocks. So his blocks have gone up the last few games. He's not usually a good shot blocker. On the season, he's only averaging, Plumlee, 0.8 blocks a game. So I think the blocks, they're not going to stay at this pace that he's been doing. And I just don't think the numbers are going to stay there as well. I think he still could have a decent amount of rebounds and stuff, but I don't think he's going to help you in many other categories the rest of the season, only in field goal and rebounding, and he'll get 10, 11 points a game. But right now, with his value at its peak, this is the time to sell him off or trade him away. The next center is Karl-Anthony Towns, Minnesota Timberwolves. So Karl-Anthony Towns, it's been a rough season for him. He was on the health and protocol list for 4 weeks. He got over that. He had a dislocated wrist early in the season that cost him 5 or 6 games. And he's a great player, no doubt about it. But I don't know what it is with Towns. I just feel like this season he's not going to continue the year, and he definitely could pop up with an injury as well on the season. He's ranked 118 with 22.3 points a game, 10.9 rebounds, 4.1 assists, 1.8 blocks a game, 94% from the foul line, 51% from the field, and he's hitting 2 threes a game. So Karl-Anthony Towns, he's a monster, no doubt about it, and he's a great fantasy player, and that's why he was a mid to late first rounder in most of the fantasy drafts this season. But I just don't think he's going to end the season well, and we've seen it already with Towns missing a tons of games, and that's what worries me. He's been pretty injury prone in his career, in my opinion. Some years he's played great, and the whole year almost, and some he hasn't. And this year it's just been a weird year for Towns. And if I could sell him off now after he's put great performances up and get a first-round player who's a little more consistent and hasn't been injured or missed a lot of time this season, this is definitely the time to do it after we've seen Towns now play about the last 10 games here. February 19th versus Toronto, 19 points, 13 rebounds, 4 assists, 2 blocks. February 21st at the Knicks, a huge game, 27 points, 15 rebounds, 4 assists, a steal, and 3 blocks. And then last night at Milwaukee in a blowout loss, 26 points, 8 rebounds, 11 assists, 1 steal and a 3. So Towns, his value is where it is at every season, right at the top once again after these huge games. And if I could sell Towns off for a superstar who's better, like I said, this is the time to do it while he's healthy and putting up the numbers that he usually puts up. The next center is Nikola Vukovic of the Orlando Magic, and Vuk, what a season it's been for him, no doubt about it. On the season, he's ranked 10th in fantasy basketball, 23.9 points a game, 11.7 boards, 3.7 assists, 1.1 steals, 2.5 threes a game, 47% from the field. And Vukovic, he got named to the All-Star team as a reserve last night, so congratulations to him. In the last couple weeks, he's ranked 6th in fantasy basketball with 26.3 points a game, 12.1 rebounds, 4.4 assists, a steal, 2.3 threes per game, 91% from the foul line, and 47% from the field. So he's been an all-star all season. He's been putting up huge numbers, but some of the games he's had, the last 2 or 3 games, I don't think he's going to match those this season. And while his value's at a super high level as a first-round player right now, you definitely could trade him off and get someone even better for him, I think. Believe it or not, I know it might be far-fetched, but he's definitely a sell-high candidate, is Vuk. February 19th versus Golden State, he had a crazy triple-double, 30 points, 16 rebounds, 10 assists. February 21st versus Detroit, 37 points, 12 rebounds, 3 assists, 2 blocks, 2 threes. And then last night versus Detroit again, 20 points, 9 rebounds, 4 assists, 2 blocks, and 2 threes. So the ball game he had versus Detroit last night is more the numbers I see him putting up. These 30-plus ball games, I don't think he's going to put them up much this season. But right now, while his value is at its super high, this is the time to sell him off. He's still going to be a double-double guy, no doubt about it. But if you could get a huge haul for Vukovic, this is definitely the time to do it. And the 5th and final center, I will look to sell high or trade off this week's Clint Capela of the Atlanta Hawks. Clint Capela, he's been on the sell high list a lot this season because I just don't think he's going to sustain the stats or some of these huge games he's had. And while his value's at an all-time high as well, it's definitely the time to trade him off and get good value for him. On the season, he's ranked 30th in fantasy basketball with 14.8 points a game, 14 rebounds, an assist, 2.1 blocks, 55% from the foul line, 59% from the field. But in the last couple weeks, the numbers, they've bumped up just a bit here for Capela. 17.6 points a game, 12.6 rebounds, 1.6 blocks a game, 69% from the field. So his percentage is skyrocketed 10% from its normalcy. His points per game have gone up 3 per game than its average on the season. But his blocks have dropped off in the last 3 games for Capela. They've been huge. February 19th at Boston, 24 points, 15 rebounds, 4 blocks. February 21st versus Denver, 22 points, 10 boards and a block. And then February 23rd at Cleveland last night. 12 points, 16 rebounds, an assist, a steal, and a block. So he's been playing out of his mind. He's got a knack, obviously, to rebounding, and he's one of the best rebounders in the NBA this season, is Clint Capela. But I don't think it happens the whole year, these huge numbers. And he's a guy with an injury-prone track record. We saw him miss most of last season, and we saw him this season miss a bunch of games. So I just think Capela isn't going to stay healthy, or the production's going to go down as we go on with the next 40 games about left in the NBA season. So that's a few centers I will look to sell high or trade away here in week 10 of the fantasy basketball season.